Hello and welcome to Sequel Pitch, where four film enthusiast friends review movies that don't have sequels and see who can come up with the best idea for one. My name's Drew Toynbee. I'm the host this week because I won last week with my pitch for Labyrinth. Joining me today to review our movie of the week and pitch me their ideas, we have the man of many voices, Ross Harmston.
Hello. It's my many voices.
All at once. I love it. We have the madcap man from Bristol, Andy Henry.
What's up? Hey, you can't see, but my hands are in the air. Woo!
He's so crazy.
And we have the last living Viking XL himself, Matt Rushton.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Again, just getting out from bed.
Yeah.
So, this week, we watched a movie from the famously always successful and never creatively bankrupt oeuvre of video game adaptations, which is the Brad Peyton directed, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson starring 28 sci-fi action monster smasher Rampage.
Oh, yes.
It's a film.
That it was.
It is indeed. But before we get to our review section, just in case any of the listeners haven't had a chance to see the movie, you can pause us now. You can find it on Netflix UK and go away and watch it. If you don't have time, if you can't be bothered, I wouldn't blame you. We do a quick 60-second summary to tell you what happens in the first movie. So, that's always done by the host. Again, that's me. So I'm going to try and do this in 60 seconds, and my time starts now. We open in a space station where a test subject has broken free and killed all but one of the crew of scientists. The last surviving scientist flees the space station with 3 canisters. However, her damaged escape pod blows up on re-entry, scattering the canisters over the continental United States of America. We then meet The Rock's Davis Okoye walking through the jungle, which is actually San Diego. He's a primate expert, and his albino gorilla friend with an attitude and a heart, George encounters one of the fallen canisters and it sprays green mist into his face. We also see a wolf and an alligator in other areas of the US finding the other two. The gas makes the animals grow in size and aggression, and they go on a rampage. Meanwhile, the CEO of Enerdine, the company that made the gas, starts a radio signal in the centre of Chicago to summon the animals back for some reason. They all rampage their way to Chicago as the military and private contractors try and stop them. George is being held in line by the sheer power of The Rock's bro love. And eventually they manage to come together and fight the other 2 monsters to the death. And the evil corporate types get their comeuppance, and that's the end.
Oh.
So, that was an experience, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was.
It was great. well, parts of it were great.
Let's jump into everyone's thoughts. I mean, any headline thoughts just to start off with?
This is not a 12.
Yeah, I guess it's they got away with a lot of stuff thinking back to it.
I would agree that feeding a person to an ape is definitely not a 12.
Yeah, but we don't see any blood. I think that's the main thing.
We see blood in the first 5 seconds of the film, and it's non-gravity globules of blood where someone's eye used to be.
Yeah, that's. But I mean, after that, is there anything that's?
Yeah, I mean, the guy gets crushed by a massive. The guy gets crushed by a massive bit of concrete, and the blood splatters on the window.
Yeah.
And then he makes a quip. And then he makes a quip after seeing a man being crushed, and goes, "He chose the wrong exit," or something like that. Like you just saw a man be crushed to death.
It's dark.
Or when Joe Magalelli, what's his name? Magalelli.
Yeah. I always thought it was pronounced Manganiello, but I am probably wrong. We're all very sorry. Sorry, Joe.
When he dies, there's like blood all over his weapon as well. So I don't know about you guys, but I love The Rock's films. He is like the modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think. And then I don't think any film that he's in is bad. I think they're enjoyable for what they are, which is silly, camp, action-y, fun. And you can't take them too seriously, and he doesn't. But he is a good actor. Like The Rock is a good actor. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
He's got better.
charismatic enough. He
Yeah.
carries the film.
you know, he was charismatic in WWE, and he's brought that over to film, and he's now a producer. He has his own show as well, Ballers, and you know, he's a successful guy. And I think when you look at his films, you can't really go, well, this is ridiculous. There's a man that jumps across a crane onto another building in Skyscraper, or you know, this where he's
surfing a helicopter down a collapsing building.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. One of the best bits. The thing is, but what we can't remember, what The Rock likes to do, or what this film is a summer blockbuster. It's a popcorn film.
yeah.
And basically what that means is you have to turn your brain off to a certain extent, probably quite a lot more. But like for me, a summer blockbuster it's easy to follow, like probably big explosions or big comedy. Yeah, no real like twists or turns, and just enjoyable the whole way. And that's what I think The Rock does. A lot of his films are that, where you kind of, it gets reviewed quite badly because they're not great films, but what they are in terms of just big blockbusters, like Skyscraper. It's not that great of a film compared to like other films. But if you look at what it had to do to meet, say, the summer blockbuster title that I'm putting it under, it did fine.
I was pleasantly surprised by Skyscraper, and I'll admit to being a fan of one of the other collaborations between Brad Payton and The Rock, which is San Andreas, which, as big natural disaster movies go, is basically 2012 all over again, but actually kind of not utterly balmy.
I really like The Rock in this as well. Like, he's got a very good sense of humor in this, with his constant going, "Wow, okay, I could have beat him up. I could have."
That's
or
not fun.
you know, yeah. And I think they play on that, and and it goes to show the relationship of the director and The Rock, like, really gels in this, and he's allowing Dwayne Johnson to just be Dwayne Johnson and having fun with the role.
And Jeffrey Dean Morgan as well.
Yeah,
I did love him. He was very enjoyable.
It's like one long wry crooked smile. It's just like Jeffrey Dean Morgan being mysterious and charming, and then The Rock being like affable and charming, and then a big white gorilla giving people a middle finger.
Oh my god, that gorilla's got such a good sense of humour. I don't know how The Rock kind of gave that to him. Like at the end, when he gives like the finger at the end.
I really liked the CG as well on the gorilla as well. Like, especially at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, that's actually quite good.
When it was by itself with other CGI animals or like background, it was great. Yeah. Sometimes when it was next to a live action, especially when like The Rock had to feel his arm sometimes or fist bump.
Yeah.
Most of the time it was good.
Weird.
The first fist bump.
Oh yeah.
When he keeps trying to get the fist bump and George keeps giving him the finger, and then he's like, "No, George, come on. Do the fist bump," and it's all serious, and they have the bro moment, and the Rock's human hand is as big as this giant gorilla's hand.
Yeah. To be honest, what I liked, unfortunately, what The Rock has got against him, which Hobbs & Shaw pointed out perfectly. But I digress to Hobbs & Shaw when they're trying to be stealthy, and Jason Statham's just like, "How can you be fucking stealthy? You're like as big as a mountain." And that's what The Rock's got against him, basically going into a lot of acting jobs. But what I liked, what they did anyway with this one, until he had to become an action star, he felt like a normal guy. I realised they kept his jacket on, so he didn't really show his muscles. We didn't open up with him being
still,
in the gym.
He's still massive.
Yeah,
he's still massive. But like they weren't like.
You wanted to see The Rock with his top off.
The first time you see him is alongside Jack Quaid, who, let's be honest, is not massive. Like, you cannot hide from the fact that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a god amongst men.
The only thing I didn't like massively is the motivation of the bad guys in this. I'm like, okay, so they send out a mercenary team to get like this to kill the wolf. I was like, okay, I thought they surely want to capture it alive, and then they decide to put a massive signal out to lure these things to Chicago on top of their building, and then when they're on top of it about to escape, they look around in shock as George is behind them, and they go, "Oh my! Like this is what you
from?
wanted. This is what you wanted. You wanted them to come to the city.
This was your idea."
Also, they massively clear out that city so quickly. There's no one left in that city in Chicago.
Yeah, they do a Batman v Superman of, this battle is happening somewhere completely uninhabited. don't worry, guys.
Yeah.
I've seen this film a couple of times, but sitting down to watch it with a more critical eye, like the very opening of the film, immediately I was just like, hang on, as a set piece goes on a space station, that's all good. The zero-G horror monster rat like being buffeted around by explosions, it's thrilling, it's quite well done. But then I was like, why is this in space? Like, what other than needing for the script, for the story to happen, needing the canisters to end up in different parts of the US. Why did they go to the trouble of shipping all of these people to space to do this when they could have just done the same experiment in a bunker somewhere? It doesn't need to be in zero-G to function because it all works on the ground. Like, and obviously it's just because they were like, we have to get the canisters to different parts of the US, and if it's like people steal them, why would they set them off? Or like, they'd just throw them in a bush and that would be really anticlimactic. So I understand why they went for space, but as soon as you give it any critical thought, it's like, hang on, like, do you know how many billions and billions and billions of dollars it costs to build a space station? Clearly they're not on the ISS. They're not like, hey, Russian and US governments, don't mind us in this creepy little lab.
Well, I was just going to say that there's actually a very functioning reason as to why they're in space. Is because the two people that run Enidine or Energyne are fucking morons with way more money than sense. We see this throughout the bloody film. They, as you say, they kill themselves by building a huge antenna that summons these three things towards them. They clearly have way more money. God knows how they get this money. That's what I want to know. How does a brother and sister so stupid have so much money and so much influence? That's my biggest question. But that is also why they have their own space station, is because they have that much money. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
And also, there's no laws in space, clearly. So, you know, that's why they did it.
That's the easiest way to get around it. Yeah.
In space, no one can hear you breaking international like genetics laws.
I love the bit when he's smashing up that model of the space station, the lab, and then she goes, well, it's just cost us billions of dollars, plus another $20,000 for that model. $20,000 for the model? Where the fuck did you get that from?
My case of
Warhammer,
They
Jesus.
just don't care. They can just be like, man. My favourite bit is going to be the end of the last 45 minutes. It's when all the animals come together and the rocks of like a grenade launcher.
Very well done.
Very enjoyable. When the gorilla eats the bad lady is great as an evil villain, by the way. She just looks evil, like she's like a caricature for me, but perfectly of an evil villain. But yeah, when the gorilla eats the woman, great. When the alligator comes up and breaks the neck of the wolf, brilliant. I love the last 45 minutes. What's Negan's name? Jeffrey
Dean Morgan.
Thought it was great. Don't know if he was actually necessary for the story, and probably
He's there to make quips and go, all right.
Yeah, but in a film like this, what we want to see is just basically the animals tearing each other apart. That's what I liked. In the first 20 minutes, you got to know The Rock really quickly. He's a good guy. He's got a great relationship with the monkey. That's all I need. And his like fellows or whatever.
You wait till my pitch, mate.
I mean, so Andy pointing out that was his favourite bit actually leads me on to one of the things I was going to ask you guys. Ross and Matt, have you got a favourite moment?
My favourite bit, I did like the bit with the falling skyscraper. I thought the music to that going like the low bit of music was really good. I just thought it was a good, cool little spectacle. The relationship that he has with The Rock as well throughout the film, George and The Rock are quite good as well. Like human,
the bromance. Let's face it.
The bromance.
Matt, how about you?
My favourite bits, in terms of action sequencing, I really enjoyed the bit where the plane is going down after George breaks out, and the strapping up of 3 parachutes as this plane is plummeting to Earth. I thought, you know what, that is exactly what this film is about. It's about strapping parachutes on somebody whilst gravity and G-force is essentially trying to suck you out of a plane, but you're stronger than gravity. So, yeah, that's entertaining. I do really enjoy the George bit, and I think there was a touching moment in that, after the battle and whatnot, and George, he pretends that he's dead, and I find that very, very clever. I must admit, that bit... Yeah, it was the first time I saw it, I was like, oh man, that sucks so bad. The second time I saw it, I knew exactly what was coming. I was just like, it's actually genius. And it's a real sensitive moment. He's like, did you just close your eye?
Yeah, that's so good.
I was like, oh.
To be fair, that's such a good bit. I think I read somewhere, the first draft had George dying. And it was either a producer or it was The Rock saying, no, we need to end on a happier note. The monkey needs to, obviously get impaled, probably, but live.
And we need sequel fodder.
Yeah.
For this.
For us.
Well, yeah, for us, but, that's why Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in the film, so that he can show up and be like, hey, by the way, we need you to come and do some special ops
Cowboy.
It was only released in 2018, still well within its sequel circle.
Oh yeah,
it's true.
Well, I mean, because it's based off a game.
It's very loosely based on the game, isn't it?
Yeah, as video game adaptations go, I think this is up there.
It's no Doom.
It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Johnson for that other video game.
Of course, yeah. The Rock's other video game adaptation, which is easily, demonstrably 500 times worse than this.
Upcoming episode, get ready for that.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Actually, I'll put that on the list right now.
I'll quickly say one of my. I didn't have any bits that I really hated. I'd say that half an hour, maybe Act 2, was a bit slow. I knew we had a little bit boring at points, but nothing I didn't actually kind of be like, I was rolling my eyes at.
Matt, anything in particular that stood out to you that you weren't a fan of?
On the whole, this film is exactly what it says on the tin, is all I will say. And if that is your cup of tea, you'll love it. If you want something that is vaguely interesting and has character development, you're going to hate this film so freaking much, because this is not about... Even the relationship with Dwayne Johnson and George, it tries to be something, but ultimately it's just a load of banter.
Ross, any constructive criticisms of the film to add?
A little bit more of a sort of memorable bad guy. I feel that the film lacked a star to be that person as a bad guy. Not saying that the brother and sister, they were bad. They weren't bad. They just weren't memorable. I'd like to have maybe a more well-known actor to play a bad guy.
Right. Very quickly, before we get on to your pitches, as it happens, let's have your scores out of 5. Ross, what's your score out of 5?
4 out of 5. A rip-roaring adventure. Dwayne Johnson is wonderful in this movie, and if you switch your brain off and you just enjoy it for what it is, it's very entertaining. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 monkeys.
4 out of 5 monkeys. Matt?
I'm going to give it 2 cut off floating in outer space hands out of 5. It's, you know what, it is action packed and it is kind of relentless, but Ross made a very good point that there isn't really a bad guy. There's no real journey other than it's just 90 to 100 minutes of The Rock being a fucking badass, and fair play to Dwayne Johnson. Like you say, he's incredible at what he does. But I just like a bit more of a stimulus and a stimulant to my film.
Okay. Andy?
I'm going to agree with Ross. I say, as a summer blockbuster, I think it ticks basically every box. I'm going to give it a 4 monkey thumbs up out of 5. Yeah, very enjoyable. I mean, when you watch it and you, like I say, the last 45 minutes was so enjoyable. When I watch it again, I'm looking forward to that end. And yeah, the bad guys aren't rememberable and established great, or the bad guys aren't established well, and I agree with that. But I look forward to their deaths now, kind of knowing how it comes and so yeah, no, it's very enjoyable. Not great, but definitely recommend.
Okay. And For me, I'm gonna go right down the middle of the road and give it a 3 albino gorilla middle fingers out of 5. I personally think it achieves exactly what it wants to do. It's not high art, but the effects are well executed. It's a very charismatic film. A lot of films would try to be this charming and would fail, but it worked well enough for me. However, I cannot bring myself to give it those last 2 middle fingers, or anything, or even a knuckle off of any of them. Give it a try. You might have fun. But so that gives us our overall average score, and thank goodness our average score has come out at 3.25. 0.25 lower than our score for Labyrinth. And I think if in episode 2 we had scored Rampage higher than Labyrinth, we would have had to have cancelled the podcast forever.
To be honest, I enjoyed this one more than Labyrinth.
There's a discussion to be had about whether our scores are our personal scores for how much we like the film or how good we think the film is, because those are two different things. But I think for now we are on the right side of history, giving this a slightly lower score.
If I achieve anything in this podcast, it will be to make sure that the likes of Ross and Andy do not put the worst films possible at the top of our scoreboard.
Okay. Well, there we have it. We have our score. But without further ado, I think it's time to get your sequels pitched. The rules of the pitches are very simple. You have 3 minutes to pitch me your ideas without interruption, and I really want you to sell it to me. After you've done your pitch, I'll have a couple of questions for each of you, and then you will all have a chance to persuade me why I should pick your movie over the other two. So, in no particular order other than alphabetical by first name, let's start with Andy. Andy, can you please tell me the title of your movie very quickly?
Just Rampage 2.
Just Rampage 2. Please give me your pitch. Your 3 minutes starts now.
NEG, a new company studying muscle regrowth in lizards, are close to a breakthrough. They decide to try something experimental and increase the amount of testosterone in a new gene compound they've been working on, in a chance that this will increase the speed and maturity of the muscle regrowth. When they inject it into 3 lizards, each missing a limb, it works perfectly. Until it doesn't. The lizards start acting crazy and attacking each other and growing in size. The growing lizards start attacking the scientists in the room. We see a silhouette of 3 lizards eating bodies. They're a metre tall and growing. Meanwhile, the Rock is with George playing in his pen. They hear an explosion in the distance, and Rock and his assistant drive out to check it out. They come to NEG's research lab, but the animals have destroyed the place, leaving not a soul alive. The Rock looks around and finds a video on loop showing the events of the opening. He knows only one thing can take down giant lizards: Giant George. He snatches some vials of regrowth compound and heads back to George, telling George the city needs him once again, and injects the vials into him. George, now the size he was in the first film, charges towards the lizards. As the lizards are only half George's size, he starts to win and overpower them. But soon the lizards are as big as George, and the numbers game wins over George's pure strength. And the Rock can see this. He does the only thing he thinks will work. He reaches into the bag for a vial. As George lays on his back, pinned to the floor by 2 lizards, one lizard lunges to bite down on George's neck, when a building comes flying into shot, striking the lizard and causing it to crash into another building. That building crashes onto the lizard, killing it. The other 2 lizards turn and see the thrower of the building as no other than the Rock. But he's 4 times as big as he's supposed to be, and he's growing. Soon, a 60-foot Rock and a 60-foot gorilla take on and beat the giant lizards. Everyone is fine, and 3 weeks later we see a normal-sized Rock and a normal-sized George playing in their pen. The Rock and the assistant talk about the antidote they took and how their life is back to normal. For now.
Okay.
A 60-foot Rock!
A 60-foot Rock. A 2-minute pitch for what feels like it's going to be a very short movie.
Mine's going to be about 90 minutes, 100 minutes. It's going to be that classic summer blockbuster time.
How does that story stretch out into 90 minutes?
Because we're going to have, again, most of the, probably 45 minutes is going to be the end. It's going to be the fight. It's going to be the giant monsters. Because that's what we want to see. So we're going to spend the first 15 minutes meeting the Rock, meeting his assistant, always assistants. Most likely, I can't remember the guy with the glasses. Probably more him than
chap who's in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, that's it. Because I thought him and the Rock had a better relationship than the other guys. But the idea is to establish very quickly, it's these guys again. We know these guys. let's get on with the plot. They go to the plot. They go to the plot. They go to the building, and the idea of
They go to the plot.
They go to the plot. Plot device. So they go to the building, and the idea of the Rock finding the video on loop is to easily explain.
Okay.
So
I should
that's
clarify.
that's 15 minutes.
I get
15
all that.
minutes.
The setup is artful, but
thank you.
an hour and a quarter of just fighting.
No. It won't be
in
an
the
hour and a
city,
quarter. It'd be like 45. It'd be 45 minutes. We'll be coming back to NEG, who are trying to cover their tracks like the guys in the first film.
Okay, right. My question was going to be: are there any B plots that you've left out of the pitch? So there will be. So you're saying there will be some sort of B plot of the baddies. Are they kind of trying to kill George? Are they trying to cover it all up and just kill everyone involved? Or
They are. I can see it a lot like Inspector Gadget, where you see you just hear a voice and you see a shadow or just an arm, so you don't know who's trying to mop it up. Who's trying to mop up this mess? But yeah, they're just like they obviously they first know about the lizards and then they try and send a cleaning crew to the lab at the time that the Rock and his assistant get there. So there's a little bit of like hide and seek.
all right, I would put it to you that the first film takes itself as seriously as it can, given its subject matter. Where yours, particularly having a 60-foot The Rock,
Oh yeah,
is right on the border of trespassing into parody land.
Can I actually, now looking out my window at the size of a normal house, I'm gonna actually reduce, because 60. I just to come up with 60 off the top of my head. I'm gonna say 30 foot. The bigger the big they get is about 30 foot. So yeah, I'm gonna say 30 feet because looking at the houses across my window, I'm like, yeah, no, 60 feet is too ridiculous. But 30 feet would just be ridiculous enough. It doesn't take itself as seriously as the first one. Yeah.
Some interesting ideas. I can definitely see the direction that you're taking.
Imagine how big his biceps would be if he was already 30 foot tall.
I can.
And he's getting in a fight
can.
with lizards. It's a giant rock and a giant monkey versus Jurassic Park. I'm excited by a giant rock.
I've got that, and I cannot fault your dedication to the memes. But we'll see how it stacks up against the others. Thank you very much. That is fab. Up next, alphabetically by first name, we have Matt. What is the title of your sequel?
My title is Rampage Returns Tokyo Rift.
Excellent. Very good. With that, I look forward to hearing where you're going with this, and your time starts now.
Thank you. So we are going to see a lot of familiar faces returning. Dwayne Johnson, Naomi Harris, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is back, of course, along with Jack Quaid and Brian Pariala. I apologise for not pronouncing your name right. Who played Amy. I enjoyed that squad. They were a good squad. So, George has been rehomed. He is now on a sanctuary island, along with other monkeys, that is kind of doubling up as a US government-officiated science centre. Kate Caldwell, Naomi Harris is there. She's the lead in the research team. She's continuing the work that she'd done before when she was trying to save her brother, trying to find how CRISPR, the genetic editing tool, can be used to save human lives. However, she's struggling. There's a lot of frustrations. It's not quite right. Something just isn't quite fitting, and she can't put her finger on what it is. We cut over to the cleanup crew in Chicago, kind of flashback, if one will. And this is very much a scene stolen from many, many Marvel films, where there is a cleanup crew collecting the remnants of this croc-hogosaur dinosaur thing from the first film, collecting a load of samples of it, freezing them off, locking them in some containers, and they get mysteriously shipped off somewhere that isn't in the government trucks. It turns out that these samples end up with a company called Chromosortium Industries. They are based in Japan. They work in similar fields, very much genetic editing and enhancement, where Japan is now very much at the forefront of this. It's a country that is allowing it. So this company, this kind of guising as a company that's trying to better humans, whilst they're actually still trying to weaponize CRISPR. So it turns out they're using it and they start testing on humans. these humans, they start taking visual qualities of certain creatures within the CRISPR genetic pool. So some start getting scales, others start getting enhanced senses and animal instincts and animal features, but they continue to morph into these original monsters. Big homage to the game, which is exactly what it does there. They're humans that become the monsters, and they grow into take over Tokyo. It all gets very messy, a lot of death and blood, because it's a 12 and you could do that according to the first one. And it quickly, the word spreads and gets back to DJ and co on this island that there is a big problem and George is gonna have to step up once more to save the world. So they do. They head over to Tokyo. Flying, probably, because that was so safe the first time. And they get there, there's a big fight. I have no clue what time I'm on.
You've just gone 7 seconds over, so wrap it up quick.
Yeah, so they have a fight and George saves Tokyo and the world. And Kate Caldwell finds the solution to make her medicine work for humans.
Okay, alright. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay. I like the sort of monsters in Tokyo, Godzilla kaiju-ishness of it all.
You got it.
That is a nice nod. So, okay, Naomie Harris's character, Dr. Caldwell. You say that she discovers she works out how to make her research work.
Yes.
How is that going to tie into the action?
Well, I envision a scene where perhaps George is taken down, or there's blood remnants from one of these mutated humans that have become the monsters, and it's within all of that research that Kate discovers the cure. It's just through that genetic manipulation at Chromosortium Industries, they've accidentally stumbled on it, but actually it's one of the things they use to enhance it. However, Kate realises how she can genetically reverse it to actually serve her medical purposes.
Okay, cool. So it's very much like like the end of the movie thing. She finds this stuff and she realises it. It's like a big hope for mankind thing.
Yeah, perhaps it can even help to reverse the mutation. Perhaps
okay.
I didn't write that, but that has just come to my head.
Just came to his head, yeah.
Because I'm a creative.
I think that's fair. That is probably something that whoever actually writes the script off of your outline would probably get to. I think that's fair. So you were very critical of the first film for not having very much character development.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you doing anything to remedy that, or are you just going with it?
Absolutely not. I'm here to make a sequel, not a film that I want to watch.
Fair enough. It's very mercenary of you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
What else? Yeah, I think I appreciate that you've given Naomie Harris something to do in the film, and I very, very much enjoyed your use of Croc-Hogosaurus.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be.
Sounds like a Pokemon I want to capture.
I want that to come up again in this podcast regularly. But yeah, thank you, Matt. I'm intrigued to see what the others make of your pitch.
Thank you.
Last, but by no means least, we have Ross. Ross, what's the title of your pitch?
Rampage 2, Vengeance.
Very good. Rampage 2, Vengeance. Your 3 minutes starts now.
2 years after the disaster in Chicago, life has settled down for Davis Okoye. The San Diego Wildlife Sanctuary has grown, and himself and Dr. Kate Caldwell are rushed off their feet looking after a huge George. That is until an old adversary named Johannes Kruger, a South African poacher, sees Davis in a news interview. Kruger is played by Arnold Vosloo, the man who played the Mummy, and is wearing an eye patch over his left eye. More importantly, he has a pet python wrapped around his arm. We then have a flashback and see a young Kruger with his brother in South Africa with a group of poachers. They have just caught an adult gorilla and are hacking as they are hacking the feet off. Then all of a sudden, the poachers are all shot and killed, and only Kruger survives, but not without losing one of his eyes. Looking up half dead, he sees Davis Okoye and vows vengeance. Seeing Davis has ignited his mission, he travels to America, and on the way he learns of a pathogen that rewrites genes. He also learns it's being housed in a top government facility. So he hires a mercenary group to break in and steal it. And in the process, they kill Harvey Russell. Kruger then injects his pet python with the serum multiple times, and it grows to a massive size. And he then travels to San Diego to confront Davis. The sanctuary is destroyed by Kruger, but Davis isn't there. Him and George are in a school talking about the benefits of conservation, and they return to the devastation to find a dying Dr. Caldwell, who with her last breath urges Davis to destroy Kruger and says, "You'll need help," and hands Davis a vial of pathogen. Davis then sees Parvo, and with sign language, Parvo communicates to Davis that he wants to help and take down Kruger as well. Davis reluctantly injects Parvo with the serum. Davis, Parvo, and George find Kruger on a rampage in the middle of San Diego, and a huge fight ensues. They defeat the snake, but Kruger, not wanting to give it up, injects himself and then is transformed into half man, half bear, the ultimate killing machine. In the fight, George is almost killed, and at the last second, Parvo saves his life and kills Kruger. Then Davis quips he could have done it all on his own, and George and Parvo push him into a nearby fountain. They all laugh. The end.
Okay, very good. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay, yeah. Come
at me.
A few similarities between yours and Matt's, both evolving the idea from the first movie whilst incorporating the idea from the game that it's people who get transformed. I enjoyed that. So, Arnold Vosloo.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yes.
But for people of our generation who saw The Mummy in, 99, does he have the cultural cachet to play for today's younger audience of sort of 14 to 18-year-olds who would probably be the target for this?
I think so. He's been in something recently that I don't know the name of, but he plays a bad guy in that. Let me have a look at what it is. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe this is a totally irrelevant point that I'm trying to make. Yeah. No. Oh, he's in Bosch.
Okay.
He's in Bosch.
Really popular with the kids. Bosch.
Hey, that's popular. And G.I.
Look.
Oh no, yeah, that was ages ago.
I'm not having a go because I went hearing Arnold Vosloo was going to be the villain of the piece. I squeed inside a bit. It has a draw. I'm just a little concerned.
I think he's got he's South African as well, and I like giving a South African character to somebody that is actually South African would really benefit from that role.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's. But in terms of human characters, then we've basically just got The Rock and Arnold, making a swath of chaos through multiple popular characters from the first film, a controversial choice. What's your reasoning for killing off Jeffrey Dean Morgan and for fridging the main female actor from the first movie?
I think it's called vengeance, and nothing says vengeance than killing some characters that the main hero loves or likes, and also the audience like. You're really gonna. If Vosloo is not going to reach the people, the story of him killing these favourite characters are going to really make the audience hate him. And I think there's going to be some hilarious little scenes, with George at the school, where he's going to kind of get into the room and he's going to smash his head on the wall, but it's going to fall, and they're going to be like,
he's going to be playing
George.
The playground on the monkey bars.
Yeah, exactly. And then they come back, and then it's horror and death.
Okay.
And also, I just want to explain the weird man bear thing, because he injects in thinking that he's just going to get really big, but something goes wrong, and he, like, as he injects himself, he's like feels like really weird, and then he turns into half man, half bear. That's
Man, bear, pig.
Yeah, man, bear,
Man, bear, pig. Yes,
A good explanation there. It feels weird, and that's why it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. So, fellas, you've all heard each other's pitches, so now is your chance to tell me why I should pick your movie over the others. Let's jump in first with Andy. Why is yours the one to pick?
Because mine's easy to follow, simple. It have one thing that no film has had before and probably will have again, which is going to be the main draw, which is a 30-foot rock. Who doesn't want to see a 30-foot rock beating up some 30-foot lizards with a tag team partner, his gorilla?
Is he going to be stuck as 30-foot rock for the rest of his life now?
No, because at the end, there's a bit later where he kind of recaps going, basically, oh, thank God we got that antidote and everything's back to normal now.
Okay, sorry. So, although I think yours is too short, mate. I think it's
mine would be perfect 90 minutes.
I was just going to say, what's the character growth?
There isn't really any. It's a film that doesn't need some. There. He's already got what he's learned from the first one, so he just wants to continue being a good person and helping out.
I think you still need character growth, even in an action film, mate. I think that's why yours is on downfall.
I'm terrifyingly siding with Andy here in that I think character growth is a load of shit in a film like this. You just want action. However, I'm not there just trying to put action in for meme's sake. I feel like our host himself called you out on the fact you just want a 30-foot rock for the memes. There has to be more than a film than a meme, but there has to be less emotional trauma in a film that is basically just about huge, big creatures doing what they're doing.
Okay, Matt, do you have anything else to say why yours is better than the other two, or is that the end of your argument?
No, absolutely. I have more to say. I feel like Ross, you are way too invested in the emotional aspect of this film. I think it can create more heartache and more harrowing experiences, which the audience will actually be deterred from. I feel like mine, it expands upon a universe that could or could not exist within Rampage. It has a natural homage, way more than the first film did, to the references and the inspirations of the video game franchise, with the likes of Godzilla and the kaijus, and taking it to Japan, it becomes it becomes an international event. Just think of the premiere in Tokyo. Think of the huge scale and spectacle of the marketing campaign as we start marching shit through the streets of Tokyo and on the big billboards. I feel like mine has by far the most international appeal. It has some craziness that Andy brings in, but without memes. Mine is a serious action film, but it does not have the emotional baggage that Ross brings in that I really don't think this film needs, because goddamn, it didn't have it in the first film.
Yes, Matt's is totally different, but also exactly the same as every other Godzilla film that there's been.
Basically.
It is very different. It's a monkey. And it's different kinds of
You're basically
bosses.
set it in Japan, which is basically Godzilla. You're just like, just go set it in Godzilla.
Different creatures.
It's an homage. Although it's not an homage, but it's an homage. There we go.
Well, it is, because this is a giant monkey and Godzilla's a giant dinosaur.
But why are you saying it? Why can't it be in America? Why does it have to be in Japan?
Because I feel like it's very important to pay respect to the influences of the film. I think you cannot make a second Rampage film.
Game.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah, but
it's not
that
based,
video
it's
game
not an
has to
homage
have inspiration.
To a Godzilla film, though, is it?
Read up on Rampage, good sir. I know that our host has, and I know that he acknowledged the respect and the homage I'd made too.
To be fair, the stated influences of the game were to at least give a cheeky wink to Godzilla. Ross, your turn, mate.
I think that you need. I've got a good bad guy who you are invested in when you kill off characters that people care about. I think that people will actually hate him. I think there's a journey about friendship. I also put in the monkey from the first one as well, with Parvo and the fact that he was shunned in the first one by George, and he ends up saving George's life. And it's a metaphor for friends should always stick together, and that's why 3 of them take on this bad guy, and they kill him. And it's a good message that you're sending to the kids about if they're ever going to watch a 12 film with this much gore. I think I've got a good story and a mix of story and action. Because the first one, yes, it was action, but I don't see why you can't have story as well and character growth in an action film. And that's where Matt's and Andy's falls on deaf ears. I think theirs is not good compared to mine.
I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but all of those very important film techniques and narratives and things that I wholeheartedly believe in that you have added to this film, Ross, I can't believe I'm saying that I actually think that is your biggest detriment.
No.
Things that Matt Rushton so passionately loves in film are the very reason that your film should not be picked, Ross.
These are powerful words from the Viking XL. So, my final thoughts. I've got mixed feelings about all 3 of these. There are very strong arguments for and against all 3, I think. Andy, there's no doubting that yours would have spectacle, and I can see exactly why you're going for it and the spirit in which it's being written. I worry that it, even adding in that B plot of the other organisation trying to stop them, I worry that it's too slight, and there's only so many different permutations of a giant gorilla punching 3 lizards to carry 45 minutes of action. But I can see where you're coming from. Ross, I really like the strong baddie. It's a good continuation from the first film. It's a good evolution of the first film. I get your justification for killing off popular characters from the first film, and there is definitely an argument for it, but it is a bit of a shame that human element is lost sort of in the middle of Act 2 before we move on. However, the strong baddie, the overall narrative, I think all works. It all makes sense. Matt, I like the government facility aspect of it, and I like that it's that the team's all there working together. Coming to Tokyo, I think, is a good move. It's visually going to be very different. It's got scope to have more baddie monsters, which maybe raises the stakes. Naomi Harris has more to do, which is quite nice. But then both Matt and Andy saying that character growth is a negative about this, I do think is wrong. Like, I agree. The first film gets by without The Rock learning any lessons or changing in any way whatsoever, and it's fine. But having a character arc will never detract from a film, in my opinion. So, I can only pick one film, and I'll be entirely honest. If I had the budget, I would be picking 2, and I would be picking Matt and Ross's and smushing them together. I think there's a very good synthesis of that, and aspects of Andy's, I'm sure, of the 3 lizards fighting and the more chaotic fighting. But I can only pick one, and that film is Matt's film.
Fuck it out.
I will justify my decision. Like I said, I was incredibly torn between Ross and Matt. Andy, I'm really sorry. I wanted...
Mine is a summer blockbuster. It's what you want. It's an easy popcorn movie, and it's enjoyable. It's got that factor that you gotta remember.
But theirs are also popcorn movies that would be enjoyable, but they have more...
Not as enjoyable.
They have more flesh on the bones, for me.
Mine's all fat.
Ross, the inclusion of the villain was inspired. The casting choice was absolutely inspired. But it felt smaller scale. Like, the giant snake would be really interesting visually, but it's just the one baddie, and yes, then it's giant man-bear pig, but again, it's just 2 gorillas fighting a snake and then 2 gorillas fighting man-bear pig, where Matt's is visually distinct. It has the potential to have like 20 human-animal hybrids all fighting in downtown Tokyo. It has the other characters like working for a secret agency, and that all... Arnold Vosloo so nearly won me round. It was like you couldn't have picked a better baddie, Ross, but it wasn't quite enough to override how much I enjoyed the like secret agency gorilla lab on an island that flies out and parachutes a giant gorilla into crisis situations. So that means our host next week will be Matt Rushton.
Whoa.
Matt, can you please tell us what we will be pitching for you?
Thank you very much. Yeah, and firstly, I do just want to congratulate my fellow competitors on a hard-fought victory. I really thought that Ross might have bagged that one, but I'll take the win every time. However, next week, we are going to cover the 2013 American apocalyptic zombie action horror film, World War Z.
Ooh.
You can find it on Prime UK. Make sure you get watching and think of your own sequels in the meantime, and we'll see you there.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Matt. So, that's it for this episode. It is goodbye from Ross.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from Andy.
Goodbye! It was the 30-foot rock.
Goodbye from Matt.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Send us in your pitches for Rampage 2. You can find us on Twitter at PitchSequel. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And we will be here next week with the next episode of Sequel Pitch. Goodbye.